Okay, the honourable member for Saanich-Gold.
Merci to mes collègues pour ce honor.
I'd like to thank all my colleagues for the honor of rising today in order to respond to our colleague for Châteauguay-les-Jardins de Napierville's speech. It's a little bit emotional for everyone here because, as our colleagues have said, the Secretary of State for Nature experienced 1989 and what happened then. We will never forget the massacre at École Polytechnique. For years, we have been reading out the names of the 14 women who were murdered, as well as the 2 women who were wounded that day. And now, while of course it is not acceptable to say her name out loud because she's one of us, but we know that she was one of the people who survived the massacre, and it is an honor to work with her in this place because she is a woman of courage, because she continued to live her life and to fight for firearm regulation with the group Police se souvient. And she has always fought to do more about violence against women. Because of that massacre, this has become a global day, a massacre that took place here in Canada. I remember it as if it were only yesterday. I remember the horror we all felt.
With heightened awareness of violence against women, it persists. Violence by intimate partners against a former partner, killing her children. Things that continue to happen. As my colleagues have mentioned, of course, we recognize that particularly vulnerable are Indigenous women and girls. Nous avons eu l'enquête sur les questions des meurtres des femmes autochtones.
The question of the murders of Indigenous women.
The calls to action of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry gathered dust, and Indigenous women and girls continue to go missing, continue to be killed. And globally, right now in Sudan, there is an extreme increase in gender-based violence as acts of war in Darfur, in Sudan, and connections to Canadian arms manufacturers, even there in Sudan, even now. Women and girls globally are far more vulnerable to violence because they're women. Femicide occurs far more frequently around the world than our male colleagues, many of whom are feminists. But there's no question but that to be born female in this world is to be more at risk than to be born male. Violence against women and girls is a scourge that continues. I so celebrate the work of the Moosehide campaign, of so many men who stand up and say, I want to be seen as a man who condemns toxic masculinity. Today is a day, and I'm being careful. There's much I could say about our failures domestically, but I want to say that this is a day of internal reflection. We know we have to do more in our society as a whole. We know we need to raise up and thank those courageous women on the front lines who defend the rights of women to live in security. I'll never forget the words of Margaret Atwood on this point. She said, men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them. That's a deep reality. And I know that when I walk alone in a parking lot and I hear footsteps behind me in the dark, I'm afraid, in a way that my husband in similar circumstances wouldn't be. We in Canada can do more. We need to honor the memory of those young, brilliant women engineering students with their whole lives ahead of them. Thank God that one of our colleagues survived the shootings and is now here as a voice against violence against women, for better gun control, and now, as sheer happenstance would have laid in her path, the role of Secretary of State for Nature. I want to thank her, honor her, and celebrate her work, and ask that all of us together live up to the promise that Canada holds for the world as a place that will condemn the Taliban and a state that practices apartheid against women, condemn violence against women wherever it occurs, and increase our efforts as a country united to end the scourge of violence against anyone, but on this day, to redouble our efforts to end violence against women. Merci, Monsieur le Président.